Welcome to I May Be Wrong.
I don't know what this world is coming to,
but I don't think so. We're broadcasting from the greater Nashville area, the home of country music, beyond the borders of political correctness and identity politics. Facts and faith are our demarcations. Truth lights our path.
Here's the Barry White of Podcast Radio,
the Venerable Alfonso Ashworth.
Welcome to another exciting episode of I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Of course, we are shielded by faith and armored with the truth. So we want to welcome you to the show. And if anybody's out there in the listening world, I know you are, of course, you can catch us live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central. And of course, you can also catch us in the re-air on our podcast. So don't fret if you didn't get it the first time, but you do not want to miss this show if you can get it live, because we always have an exciting program. Of course, it's 30 minutes in the program, so we have to get right into what we're doing. Of course, if you want to go and visit the website, it's I may be wrong, but I don't think so.com. You can go there, you can chat, you can get our news feed, you can become part of the subscriber. There's a lot going on there. We have a forum, we have a blog, we have everything there that you need on the website at I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Of course, I am your host, Alfonso Ashworth. Of course, some of you may have known me from my time with Lonnie Poindexter on his show, Lion Chasers Radio. And of course, Lonnie is still clicking. You can find him on Saturday afternoons at afr.net. Of course, he now has an hour show. That's our Lion Chasers. So catch Lonnie there as well. And of course, if you would like to be more a part of our show, you can join us in the chat room. We do have a chat on the website at I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. I see that Miss Akita Dukes Mosby is in the chat room already. And of course, a lot of people are there posting information. You can share it as we talk on the air. Or of course, you can, if you would like to be a guest, we get you on as well. Look, there's a lot happening. I need to get right into this with this thing about racism, that President Trump is a racist. But no one ever questioned President Obama during his 8 years and his association with Louis Farrakhan. Check this out.
Then came Barack Obama. We supported him when he was a community organizer. I had never met him, but my chief of staff at that time, Brother Leonard, knew Barack Obama, and we backed him with money and with the help of the FOI to get him elected. Barack Obama became a U.S. Senator. This part of the story I will leave for another time. But he visited me. That's all I will say. And he threw his hat in the ring to be president of the United States. And Farrakhan, at our Savior's Day convention in 2008, spoke kind words about my brother. But Hillary had already said she wanted to be president. So she and Barack were locked in a battle. She was battling the Clintons. So when there was a kind of a debate with NBC's star reporter Tim Russert, my name came up. And all of you that want national and state prominence, sometimes I am the litmus test to see if white folk can do anything good for you.
You know, listening to that, And I'm going to play the rest of it later in the show so you can hear the rest of that conversation, because it's something that the media did not report until after Barack Obama was out of his second term almost. So we're going to talk about this thing about racism, but I got a surprise for you. I've got a special guest waiting in the queue. Todd McKinley, let me get his name right, was born and raised in Kingsport, Tennessee. He served 20 years in the U.S. Army. During his time in the Army, he was stationed in the White House Communications Agency on staff with Vice President Cheney. During his time in the Army, Todd saw combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, served as a district commander for the American Legion in East Tennessee, currently is an associate staff member for the Trump White House, does advanced work for President Trump. So he knows a lot about President Trump. We're going to find out about that. He ran for Congress in Tennessee, 1st District in 2018, and he's exploring to run for Congress in Tennessee, 1st District in 2020. Welcome to the show, Mr. Todd McKinley. Welcome, sir.
How are you, sir? I appreciate you having me on your show. I love the title, too. You may be wrong, but you don't think so.
Yeah, I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Of course, I want to give you every opportunity, one, to introduce yourself to my audience and let them know what you're about, who you are. Of course, you're in my backyard. You're right here in Tennessee, in East Tennessee, and politics in Tennessee is rather strange at times. So, but tell my audience who you are and what you're doing and why it's very important in what you're doing.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I won't go too long, but who I am, is, I'm a Christian. I'm a Southern guy. Born in Tennessee, love Tennessee. Grew up rooting for the Vols, and they've let me down several times over the years. I'm still there. I'm hopeful. Grew up playing sports my whole life, like a lot of folks. I love my country. And, of course, whenever I graduated high school, I was figuring out, what to do next. There's a lot of young kids out there trying to figure out what's in the future for them. And I saw the Army as an opportunity to get, a good education, see the world, and also gain some good experience, and also get away from East Tennessee for a little bit and kind of see what else is out there. And was able to do that. Got a great life experience, great life education. Like you said, 20 years in the Army. Went on to, in addition to military experience and military education, I've got, associates, bachelor's and a master's degree, all through the military service, and, had I not gone in the military, those things wouldn't have been possible. And, of course, serving at the White House and then traveling the country for the vice president and, of course, traveling the world with him, honestly, on Air Force Two or Marine Two, or those things wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the military. And, of course, making all the friends and acquaintances and seeing all these different lands wouldn't have been possible. So, that's kind of a little bit who I am. And I love my country. I want to continue to serve. And when I retired, I moved back home and got active in veteran service organizations, not just the American Legion, but others, VFW, Disabled American Veterans, and a few others. So veteran service is a very near and dear to my heart. Also, public policy and, serving others in the public arena is also important. We see in Washington, D.C., as Donald Trump talked about, the swamp. And,
right.
Whether you love Donald Trump or not, the D.C. and Washington, the Congress, and the entire executive branch is a swamp. And it needs to be drained. It needs to be drained. And, at the end of the day, it's up to the voters to show up and pull the lever for someone new instead of reelecting members of Congress at a 95% reelection rate.
Well, and let me dig into this, because I want to give you a chance to talk about some of the things we discussed, term limits, constituent access. And, of course, we want to talk about Donald Trump, too. And I just played just a short clip just earlier about, Louis Farrakhan. Everybody wants to call President Trump a racist, that he's associated with the Ku Klux Klan. And there is no bigger racist in America than Louis Farrakhan. And no one held Barack Obama to the same standard. Of course, in the media, we're going to talk about that. Don't take this the wrong way, but you sound pretty young. You sound rather young. And how did you get crammed all that in such the years that you said you served in the service, then you served for Cheney, And then you ran for office, and now you planning on running for office once again in 2020. Tell the audience what's your game plan. How do you think you're going to do with that in 2020?
Well, like you said, I'm 41 years old. I entered the Army when I was 18, so just graduated high school and went into the Army.
Right.
So in 20 years and 29 days, crammed a lot of stuff in there. When I retired, I saw, I wanted to continue to serve others, and actually going back to whenever I was serving at the White House, we did a lot of advance work where we were, doing political events, if you will, for members of Congress and members of the House, the Senate, and what have you. And I looked at some of these folks, and I thought to myself, you know what? I could do this. I mean, what do these folks have that I don't have, other than the fact that they've gotten some connections? Whenever I left the service, I thought, the people in Northeast Tennessee have been left behind for far too long. They need a voice in Washington, somebody who gets it, and someone who's from here, who grew up mostly like they did, and who's going to go up there and fight for them and provide good constituent service and never forget where they come from. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to get involved in politics and run. And as far as how is it going to go in 2020, like you said, we're exploring the option right now. But of course, it's going to take a lot of money to run these campaigns, because it takes a lot of money to run ads, whether it's television, radio, social media, or buying, palm cards, doing mailers. It costs a lot of money. So if the incumbent is still going to stick around for a seventh term, mind you, he promised 5 terms and no more. If he's still going to stick around, it could hinder people donating to our campaign and our cause and hurt us as far as getting the message out there. But right now, we're going to continue to truck forward and try to raise money and also talk about the issues and see what matters to the folks here in Northeast Tennessee. And at a point in the near future, we're going to make a decision if it's very feasible or viable for us to go ahead and be an actual candidate.
Well, and I'm not going to put you on any spots. I'll let you just say what you need to say. And, of course, if I ask a question that's something that you don't feel comfortable answering, we'll move it along. You, of course, it's obvious that you are a white American. It's obvious.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
You grew up in East Tennessee, Kingsport. Yeah. I'm familiar with the area. I love East Tennessee. I'm a big Vols fan as well. And, of course, they've let me down many, many times. But, being a white male and conservative Christian, how do you address this issue in other communities when you're talking to minorities, particularly, in the Hispanic and the black community and other areas? How do you get around that label that people already have, that you are racist or that you've been privileged? Address that issue for me.
Yeah, well, as far as privilege, I don't know anything about that because, my dad was a electrician and had been out of work many times in my childhood, so he had to work for a living. And my mother was a homemaker. And, of course, we didn't have, the best of the best. We didn't have the Nike Jordans like the other kids. We had shoes from Kmart and places like that. So, there was no privilege as far as I'm concerned. Now, yes, Northeast Tennessee is predominantly overwhelmingly white. That's for certain. But, there's a lot of poor people here that are, struggling just the same as folks even in inner cities. So I don't think I have any sort of white privilege. Yeah, I am a white male. But at the end of the day, I served 20 years in the Army alongside people, all sorts of different races, religions, ethnicities, people from other countries who immigrated here, wanted to become an American. So, I've dealt with a lot of folks from different communities, different backgrounds, in actually different socioeconomic standings. So, as far as being, racist or anything like that, that's always someone else's racist. You know what I mean? Like a friend of mine, he's African American, and he and I we served in the same shop together, the S6 shop at the 196th Infantry Brigade. His name's Charles, and he's African American, and to talk to him every day, it's like, where does people get off, throwing out the label racist just as soon as they see you, they just assume something. And he said, well, people are ignorant and they don't take the time to get to know people. He said, at the end of the day, on the inside, we're all human beings. We have feelings, we have thoughts, we have wants, we have desires. And for the most part, they're pretty much all the same. He said, everything on the outside, that's just superficial. That's the window dressing. And he said, if you're going to judge somebody based on the window dressing, that's a problem based on you, your upbringing, and your own self, not the other person. So that's kind of the way I think of it.
And that's a good answer. And at the same time, me being African American or Black American or just an American and a conservative American,
yeah,
I can see it from the other side as well, how people can, have these preconceived notions because they never engage with the other side. They never really talk to the other side. And I too grew up in a mostly poor Black community, but at a very young age, I was given the opportunity to go to a military academy. And that opened up my eyes to what you just said, diversity, different people, different parts of the world. So that sort of helped me as I went forward. But, of course, you said something that kind of touched a little button with me, term limits. Everyone talks about it, but when they get in office, they get amnesia.
Of course.
So how are you going to be different if you are elected? Say you run, you get elected. How are you going to really fight for that? Because right now, I see that's the biggest problem in D.C. is people who have been there far too long. They become too wealthy on the taxpayers' back, and they never leave. How are you going to address that?
I'm actually working on an opinion piece right now for I Vote America and I Vote Tennessee. I'll have it out and probably sometime this evening about term limits. And it's basically a full-blown opinion piece with obviously facts thrown in there. One way I'm going to address it or adhere to it is sign term limits pledges publicly. Let it be known, hey, this is what I'm doing. Also, if you looked at U.S. term limits, I'm sure you're familiar with that organization.
Yes.
So it's a national group that would hold my feet to the fire and be able to call me out if I decided after that third term if I wanted to run for a fourth term. So they can make it known, hey, this guy is actually reneging on his deal of 3 terms. So you voters need to be aware of this.
But I'm going to play your devil's advocate.
Right.
We've heard that before. People say it all the time when they're running, I'm only going to stay in. I'm going to get up there and do the job. I'm going to clean up the swamp. I'm going to do this in Washington. I'm going to go there for my people. But then they get there and they get silenced by the old guards.
Right.
They get pushed aside, and all of a sudden they're not doing what they said it was going to do. I don't want to linger on that because there's some other things I want to talk to you about. But just quickly, you said you're going to sign a pledge. You're going to be held responsible by another organization on a larger level, and you promise the people that you're going to stick to your guns, and no matter what, you're going to leave when you say you're going to leave. So that's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely. And so, I'm not going up to, if elected, if I decide to run, obviously, I can't officially say I'm a candidate because different rules apply. But, if you go to Washington, D.C., and if I went there, I would go up to focus on constituent service, focus on the issues that matter to the folks here in Northeast Tennessee, not what matters to some leader in Washington, D.C., or some special interest or some PAC in D.C. Certainly, those folks have insight to certain issues, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, you're not there to represent them. You're representing people from your district. So be beholden to them by having regular town halls, regular office hours in the various counties that make up the 1st District, and also go out into the community and publicize your schedule, where you're going to be and when you're going to be there. That way people can come and see you versus them having to travel many miles to come to your office when you're in the district. Don't go out on all these different junkets, these codels. You're going to go up there for 3 terms. It doesn't require to work to try to be a chairman or anything like that. I think you can get a lot done by just being a member of Congress that's focused on providing good, decent, hardworking constituent service every day, and come back home after it's all said and done, and having been effective in that aspect. We have a previous congressman, Jimmy Quillen, who's passed away now, but he didn't get really any bills passed during his 30-some-odd years in Congress, but he focused on the district and focused on constituent service, and he knew everybody in the district. He knew the issues, knew what the farmers had. He knew the little old lady who's living on a pension. He knew the person who was working, whether it was at the Eastman Corporation or at the paper mill. He knew the problems that they were facing, and of course he listened to them. And then whenever they said, "Hey, I need you to help me with this," he made sure within a few days you had an answer back from him, and he would take care of it. And that's how he could continue to get reelected. They didn't care if he was passing legislation or anything like that. Providing the services that these people need is, I think, the first and foremost role of a congressman.
And you know what? I appreciate it. And I think that, of course, I want to do a quick reset. We're talking to Todd McKinley. from East Tennessee. He's planning to run, exploring a possibility to run for Congress in Tennessee 1st District in 2020. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army, served us for 20 years and went to Washington and served as well. Donald J. Trump, is he a racist?
I've never seen him say anything racist at all. And if you think about this, you go back before he was president, you have Jesse Jackson was hanging out with him, Al Sharpton, and all sorts of other leaders in the African American community. They were giving him awards. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he comes down the escalator and he's running as a Republican, well, right away, the identity politics comes out and he has to start labeling him as racist. He's a bigot, he's homophobic, he's all these different things. Even though he's probably been one of the biggest supporters of, the gay community and African American community in New York. But people forget that, all of a sudden, as soon as he's running as a Republican.
Right. And of course, I've put the challenge out on radio for many years, and I put it out again. If you have any evidence, any substantial evidence that Donald J. Trump, President Trump, is a racist, I will gladly have you on the air, and I will allow you to present that evidence. So far, no one has taken me up on it. And, of course, you worked around the president. You worked around previous administrations under George Bush with Vice President Dick Cheney. And you worked in the communications, and you know a lot of people there. I just want to set the record straight. You and I don't know you personally, but I do know someone that you're associated with that contacted me, and I've known him since he was a little boy playing a guitar in my shop. So he came in, they put him on a little stool, and he would play for us on his guitar. So I know him very well. And if he can trust you, then I will say I'll give you every opportunity to make yourself, avail to this show anytime that you want to come on. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to tell people how they can help you, and of course, any final thoughts. Go.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. So if anybody's interested in taking a look, at our website, it's toddforhouse.com. That's TODD, the number 4, HOUSC.com. And of course, if you're like what you see, you can donate. There's a donate button there. That'll help us in our exploratory, operations, and also will help us make a good decision whenever it comes time to, make that decision. Follow me on Twitter at toddforhouse.com, TODD, the number 4, HOUSC. And, if you have any questions, you can always email me, todd@toddforhouse.com. You can message me on Twitter, whatever you need to do. I will answer your questions. I always say I will not duck, dodge, dive, or deflect your questions. I will answer them. The answer you get may not be the one you like, but I'll give you an answer. I won't run from you. And I think that's very important.
Well, Todd, we really appreciate you coming on this morning, taking your time to come on. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Of course, you have you've convinced me that you would make a wonderful representative in Congress for the district, and of course the 1st District in East Tennessee. And I'm wishing you well. And anytime that you would like to come on again, just give us a call, and we'll get you on if you got something that you want to say. Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to have me on the show, and I wish you well, sir. Thank you. Of course, that was Todd McKinley. He's running for office. He's planning on running for office. He's trying to get his team together. But if you can support him, go to Todd 4, the number 4, todd4house.com and help. Of course, we're talking about racism, what's going on. And I played a little clip earlier of Louis Farrakhan. And I promised you that I would play the rest of that toward the end of this program. And I'm going to keep that promise. And some of you are so weak and so cowardly that your desires mean more than the integrity of your being. But every time I forgave my brothers and kept moving forward. Barack did not want to denounce me, but Hillary
forced him. And he gave in and said, all right, I renounce Farrakhan. I don't want his support. I supported him anyway. And some of the followers were a little angry with me because he had dissed me. But it's not personal. What's the bigger picture? What's in the best interest of our people? So I told all of those with me, don't you say anything negative about Barack Obama. And they followed my lead and instruction. Barack got elected, and me and my wife, 5 o'clock in the morning, around the corner from the National House, we went out and voted for our brother. I was very proud of him. This man is probably one of the most beautiful human beings inside, but there's a little tinge of that which Satan can come in. See, and most of you don't realize how clever Satan is when you show signs of compromise of who you are. So,
you're listening to one of the most racist, anti-Israel individuals on the planet. And now we're discovering that he's taking credit for getting Barack Obama elected. Continue.
The bigger picture is that I have a picture of Barack and myself together. You never saw it because I would never put it out to give his enemies what they were looking for to hurt him. But he told me straight up, Farrakhan, the black vote in Chicago made me win Chicago. But it was the downstate vote that made me a U.S. Senator. And I will never do anything that will cause me to lose the downstate vote. And I said to him, my brother, your reality is not mine. And we need you where you are, so I will never ask you to do anything that will cause you to lose the downstate vote. And I never have. He was the bigger picture.
There you have it. He was the bigger picture. This is not checkers, folks. This was chess. Barack Hussein Obama was someone you could call a Manchurian. Barack Hussein Obama was whatever he needed to be to whomever he needed to be. We're going to continue this conversation as we go forward. I got an exciting person that's going to be on this show. You're not going to want to miss it. He knows about Israel. He's a conservative. He's with KUFI, which is the Christians United for Israel. And we're going to have him on this show very soon. If I have to do whatever I have to do to get him on. But you have to support this show. Go to I may be wrong, but I don't think so.com. Please donate. Support this show. course, we're coming up on the end of the show. I want to thank everyone. God bless you. God bless America and our children. Peace.
You've been listening to Alfonso Ashworth, the Barry White of Podcast Radio. Go forth and share his message. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Remember, no two people can ever occupy the same place at the same time. You were uniquely and wonderfully made. Born an original. Don't die a copy. God bless. Peace.